Zuri looked down at her hand. A ring sat on her finger, thin gold band, small stone. She hadn't put it there. She didn't remember a version of herself that would. "Who are you?" she said. The nurse laughed, thought it was the medication talking. The man didn't laugh. His jaw tightened like the question landed exactly where he expected. Two nurses passed the open door, glanced in, kept walking, the specific kind of not looking that hospital staff learn early. Before the story begins, are you watching alone or sharing the moment with someone? And where are you tuning in from? Drop your location in the comments. Welcome to Afro Korean Scope, where every story brings unexpected twists, unforgettable emotions, and journeys you won't want to miss. 14 hours before that, Zuri stood in a boarding line at LAX with her phone pressed to her ear and no answer on the other end. "Natasha, pick up." She hung up before the voicemail beep finished. The departure board flipped from delayed to boarding to delayed again. A man in a Lakers cap kicked his bag. A woman bounced a crying baby against her hip, whispering something into his ear over and over. Zuri's father had been dead 6 weeks. She hadn't cried the way people expected. She cried in the shower, where nobody could ask her about it after. She'd taken family leave from the paper 2 weeks earlier, told her editor she needed time, told her friends the same thing in the same flat voice, and stopped checking most of her messages because every one of them wanted something from her she didn't have left to give. Her phone lit up again. "Sign when you land. Desmond will meet you at the gate." She put the phone face down on her knee and didn't answer. When boarding finally opened, she found her row and stopped at 14C. A man already sat by the window. Dark hair, sharp jaw, a book open on his tray table that he clearly wasn't reading. He looked up, gave her a short nod, went back to the book. She elbowed him, reaching for her seatbelt. "Saudi." "It's fine." Careful English, barely accented, like a man who'd practiced it in rooms where mistakes cost money. 20 minutes in, she pulled her jacket tight and shivered. He reached into the overhead bin without a word, pulled down a blanket, set it on the armrest between them. "You don't have to. Take it. You look like you haven't slept in days." "That obvious?" "Yes." Something in his face loosened. Not quite a smile. Somewhere over Nevada, she asked where he was headed. "Seoul," he said. Business. His mother's estate had finally cleared probate after 2 years tied up in court, and he was bringing her wedding ring to an appraiser there before he decided what to do with it. He hadn't been able to sell it from a bank vault in Los Angeles. The appraiser his mother trusted for 40 years only worked out of Seoul. He told Zuri that like it embarrassed him, like it was a strange thing to be carrying in a laptop bag on a business flight. She told him she was flying home to bury her father's paperwork before someone else did it for her. She hadn't meant to say that much. He didn't push. Somehow that made her want to keep talking. His name was Kang Ho. He ran a company his mother built from nothing. She died 2 years ago, and he still worked like she was going to check his numbers. "The working so don't feel it thing," Zuri said. "I get that. I get it too." Cabin lights dimmed. Half the plane slept. Zuri's head drifted sideways and landed on his shoulder without her deciding it. He went still, the stillness of a man who didn't want to break something. He didn't move her. An older woman, too, rose back, caught it in the low light, smiled, and closed her own eyes. 40 minutes later, the floor dropped out from under the plane. Overhead bins burst open. A bag slammed into an empty seat. The woman with the baby screamed, his name like screaming could hold the aircraft together. Kang Ho's arm shot across Zuri's body before her eyes fully opened. Oxygen masks fell in a row, swinging. "Put it on." His voice didn't shake. "What's happening?" "Now." The plane tilted. A flight attendant hit the aisle floor, grabbed a seat back. Someone prayed in Spanish. 2 rows up. The captain's voice cut through, flat, controlled, the tone that means it's bad. "Emergency descent. Nearest runway." Kang Ho pushed her shoulders down toward her knees, hand flat against her back. "Stay down. I've got you." Metal groaned somewhere under the floor. A woman screamed. His hand pressed hard against her spine. Then nothing. No rangwa. No doors. No peremodix. Just black. Back in a hospital room. Kang Ho pulled the chair closer, but didn't sit. "You told them we're married," Zuri said. "Not a question. You hit the seat in front of you during the descent. You were out cold when they carried you off the plane. I didn't have a number for your family." I didn't know anything about you except your first name. He looked at the ring like it embarrassed him now. That was my mother's, the one I told you about on the plane, the one I was taking to Seoul. The paramedics needed something to believe fast. A ring works faster than an explanation. I signed the admission forms as your husband. It's why they're treating you like family instead of Jane Doe. Zuri turned it slowly on her finger. I was going to correct it this morning, he said. Then you woke up and looked at me like I was the only thing you remembered. She didn't argue that. It was true, and she didn't know why. A knock came before either of them said more. A woman stepped in first, cardigan, arms already spread like she'd rehearsed the entrance. Behind her, a younger man in a jacket too new for him, phone still in his hand. Baby girl. The woman crossed the room fast, pulled Zuri into a hug before Zuri's arms could lift. We got here soon as we heard. Lord, when they said the plane went down. It didn't go down, Kong Ho said. Emergency landing. The woman glanced at him, taking in the suit, the exhaustion, the way he hadn't stepped back from the bed. And you are. Zuri looked at the ring on her hand, then at Kong Ho, and something in her, not memory, not logic, just the raw need to have one solid thing in a room full of strangers, made the decision before she'd fully thought it through. Kong Ho, she said. We're married. Something flickered across the woman's face. Gone fast. Married. Well, that's news. The young man hadn't spoken. His eyes moved from Zuri's hand to the ring to Kong Ho, doing math. Desmond, say hi to your cousin, the woman said, not turning around. Hey, Zuri. His voice was fine. His eyes checked the door twice. We should get her discharged today, the woman said, already pulling a folder from her bag, flipping it open on the bed's edge. Familiar faces, that's what she needs. She has a head injury, Kong Ho said. Doctors haven't cleared her. And you know that how? You met her on a plane. The woman's smile didn't move, but her voice sharpened underneath it. I want to stay one more night, Zuri said, just to be safe. The smile came back all the way. Of course, baby. But her eyes went to Desmond first. And Desmond was already looking at Kong Ho like he'd become a problem. Natasha and Desmond left at 6, promising to come back with clothes and real food. The door clicked shut. The room went quiet in a way that felt heavier than before, like something had slipped its cage and was still pacing close by. Kong Ho watched them from the window, crossed the lot to a black sedan. Desmond had his phone out before the car door closed. You don't like them, Zuri said. I don't know them. That's the problem. She's my aunt. Been around my whole life. Has she? He turned. Tell me one thing about your childhood only real family would remember. Zuri reached for something and got static instead, the same static that swallowed the plane. I can't remember, she said, voice cracking. So how am I supposed to know if she's lying? You're not supposed to know right now. You're hurt and grieving at the same time. That's not weakness. Why do you care this much? You could have corrected the story this morning and walked away. He looked at the ring instead of answering right away. Because when you woke up, you looked at me like I was the only steady thing in the room. I didn't want to be the reason that stopped being true. Neither said anything else. The monitor kept its rhythm. Later, a nurse found Kong Ho asleep, sitting up, jacket still on, arms crossed, even in sleep. Zuri watched him, awake. Your husband's dedicated, the nurse said. Zuri didn't correct her. 2 floors down, Kong Ho stepped into the hallway to take a call he'd been avoiding. You're supposed to be in Seoul by Thursday, Director Cho said. Older, clipped, used to being obeyed. There was emergency landing. I'm handling something. Handling what? A stranger from an airplane? Shareholders are asking if you're ready for this seat. She's not a stranger's problem to solve. She nearly died today. Let the hospital handle her. Come home. There's a vote next week on the Hall Court partnership. Kong Ho's grip tightened on the phone. Hall Court. The real estate group. We discussed the terms in March. He remembered. He filed the name away next to Desmond, checking the door twice while saying hello to his own cousin. I'll call you tomorrow, Kong Ho said, and hung up. He looked through the window in Zuri's door. She'd fallen asleep, ring catching the hallway light. He went back in and didn't leave the chair again that night. By morning, memory came back to Zuri in pieces, but not evenly. A doctor doing rounds explained it plainly while checking her chart. The injury had scrambled short-term encoding around the accident itself, but older memory, the kind laid down over years, could resurface faster and sharper, sometimes whole, because it had never needed to pass through the part of her brain that was bruised. Don't be surprised, the doctor said, if you remember something from 5 years ago clearer than what you had for breakfast. Zuri was eating dry toast when one hit sharp enough to make her set the fork down. Not Natasha's face. Not Desmond's. A man's voice, calling her name, urgent, older than anything else she could remember. Gango. She pressed her palm to her forehead. I remembered something. A voice. Not them. He came and sat on the bed's edge. Do you remember a face? Where you were? No, just a voice. Like he needed me to answer. Her eyes went wet. Why can't I remember more? Your brain's protecting you, giving you pieces when you can hold them. You sound like you know that from somewhere. My mother had a stroke before she died. Memory came back the same way. He closed his hand over hers. Don't let anyone rush you into believing something before you remember it yourself. She didn't pull away. Through the door's small window, Natasha watched them a second too long before pushing in with a bag of clothes and a smile already fixed. Look what I found, Natasha said, dropping the bag on the bed. Your favorite sweater. Zuri pulled it out. I don't remember owning this. Course not. You hit your head. Natasha was already moving on, pulling papers from her tote, clicking a pen open on the tray table, right over the toast. Some signatures about your daddy's estate. Nothing complicated. Sooner it's done, sooner you rest easy. Gango stud. She just came out of a concussion. She can't read these clearly yet. Not your business. Natasha didn't look at him. Family business. She's my wife. His voice went flat. Anything affecting her affects me. Legally. And I'd like to know how you got past the front desk without hospital ID confirming you're listed as next of kin. Natasha's pen stopped for the first time. I showed them a copy of guardianship paperwork. Standard for family in a crisis. I'd like to see that paperwork. It's with my lawyer. The smile snapped back into place, tighter now. Fine. When she's settled at home. No ruse. Desmond appeared in the doorway, phone in hand. Kangho caught the tail end of a text before Desmond flipped the screen face down. She's not signing. Handle it different. That afternoon, while Natasha and Desmond went to grab lunch, Kangho stepped in the hallway and called Taeyong, who ran background research for every deal his company touched. 2 names, Natasha and Desmond. Cross-reference against Zuri. Her father died 6 weeks ago. Any documented history between them before that date. And find out what paperwork Natasha used to get past hospital admissions claiming guardianship. I want to know if it's forged and who notarized it. How long you need. I need it right. He hung up and went in. Zuri sat staring at her own hands, trying to force memory through will alone. He sat without mentioning the call. You're investigating them, she said. Not a question. Yes. Without telling me. I didn't want to hand you a suspicion with nothing behind it. That's not your call to make. It's my family, my memory, my life. Her jaw set. If something's wrong, I want to know while it's happening. He looked at her a long moment. You're right. I am sorry. Don't apologize. Don't do it again. I won't. She reached for the tray table and found a folded paper Natasha had left behind by accident, half tucked under the tray's edge. A copy of an estate document. She read it slow, sounding out the legal language. Her father's name. A property address that pulled something in her chest, even though her mind didn't place it. A transfer clause. A 30-day window from her father's death for any heir to claim the property before it defaulted to sale. 6 weeks had already passed. Gango. Look at this. He read over his shoulder. His face changed to the buyer's name. Hall Court Realty Group. You know that name, she said. My board's finalizing a partnership with them next week. Director Cho pushed for it. He called me last night, told me to leave you here and come home. The room went quiet except the monitor. They're not just after a signature, Zuri said, piecing it out loud. They're running out of time. My 30 days are almost up. Kangho set the paper down like it might tear. Whatever this property is, someone wants it badly enough to put 2 strangers in a hospital room pretending to be your family. Zuri looked at her hands, one holding the paper, the other still wearing the ring that started as a lie and had somehow become the one thing in the room she trusted completely. Then we find out what it is, she said, before they run out my clock. Taeyong called that evening while Kong-ho stood in the hallway. Found something. Not on Natasha and Desmond yet, still digging. But the property, it's not just a house. A full block. Storefronts, residential units above, sitting on a rezoning announcement that hasn't gone public. And the guardianship paperwork Natasha used at the front desk, it's got a notary stamp on it. I traced the notary. Small office, cash-only clients, 3 complaints on file for backdating documents. She's done this before, or someone taught her how. How much is the property worth? Post for zoning, 12 times what her father paid 30 years ago. Maybe more. Hall Court knows about the rezoning before it's public. Someone on the inside told them. Can't prove it yet. Keep digging. Kong-ho hung up and went back in. Zuri sat up straighter than she had all day. I remembered something else. While you were gone, he sat. You, she said. Before the plane. I've seen you before. You went still. A gala. Downtown, 8 months ago. I was covering it. I write about small businesses, family-owned places. You were there with men in suits, the only one who looked bored out of his mind. Something moved across his face, slow, reluctant. I remember that night, he said. You asked me why I looked like I hated being there, she said, and told me the truth. That galas were where your mother used to shine, and you never knew how to be in a room like that without her. I remember thinking I'd never see you again. I didn't even get your name. You didn't ask. I was afraid to. You've known this whole time, she said. Since the plane. And you said nothing. I wasn't sure at first. Then everything happened fast. The turbulence, the hospital, the ring. There wasn't a right moment to say we've met before, and I've thought about it more than I should have. We were strangers on a plane because you were too scared to ask my name 8 months ago. He almost smiled. Worse when you put it that way. It is worse. But she wasn't angry. Something in it felt less like an accident now, and more like something that had been circling toward them. So none of this was random. No, he said. I don't think it was. That night, once the hallway dimmed, Zuri asked for her personal effects bag. Recovered from the wreckage. Phone cracked, but working. She scrolled contacts until one name made her stomach tighten before her brain caught up. Femi. Do you know this name? No, I don't either. But it's doing something to me just looking at it. She pressed call. It rang twice. The voice on the other end, the same voice from her fragmented memory, nearly broke before finishing her name. Zuri, is it you? I've been calling for weeks. Nobody would tell me anything. Natasha said you didn't want to talk to me. I thought I'd lost you too after Dad. Femi. Something cracked open in her chest, the memory matching the voice exactly. Who are you? What do you mean, who am I? I'm your brother. Kong-ho watched her face change as the lie collapsed in real time. I was in an accident, she said. I hit my head. I don't remember a lot. I've been on leave from the paper. My phone's been going straight to whatever Natasha wanted me to see. Natasha's been telling me she's my aunt. Desmond's my cousin. They've been here since I woke up. Silence long enough that she thought the call dropped. We don't have an aunt named Natasha, Femi said, voice low, urgent now. No cousin named Desmond. I called your work twice. They said you were on leave and not taking calls, and I figured that was you needing space. I called your cell a dozen times, and it kept going straight to voicemail. I didn't know she'd gotten access to block me until I checked with the carrier last week and found out someone added a call screening service to your account using your ID. Where are you right now? Kong-ho was already moving toward the door. They're coming back in the morning, Zuri said. To get me to sign something. Don't sign anything. I'm coming. Tell me where you are. Zuri gave him the hospital and floor. Femi said 4 words before hanging up. Don't let them near you. That stayed in the room longer than the call. Kong-ho pulled the chair close. They blocked your brother using your own carrier account. That takes access to your ID, maybe your social security number. That's not a mistake. They planned this before I got on that plane. They didn't plan you getting hurt. But everything else, he worked it through out loud. The paper's ready the second you landed. The carrier account, calling themselves family before your real family knew you were hurt. This was moving before the turbulence hit. And the turbulence handed them an easier version of me. One who couldn't remember enough to say no. Kong-ho reached over, took her hand. They're not getting that version anymore. Morning came with a knock too casual for what it carried. Natasha walked in with the folder already out. Morning, baby. Doctor cleared you. Let's knock these out quick, get you settled. Who's Femi? Zuri said. Natasha's hand stopped on the folder's edge. Who? My brother. You've had his calls blocked for 6 weeks using some call screening service on my account. Zuri kept her voice even. I remember you now. You showed up 2 days after my father died. 6 weeks. Not my whole life. Not ever. Desmond's phone lowered. I don't know what confusion the head injuries got you in, but I raise you summers when your mother. Don't finish that sentence with a lie about my dead mother. The door opened. A man walked in fast, out of breath, still in his flight clothes. Tall, Zuri, same eyes, a face that made something settle in her chest deeper than Kong Ho's presence had that first morning. Femi, Zuri said, and for the first time since waking up in that room, something came back whole instead of in pieces. He crossed her, careful of the bandage, held on longer than a hello needed. Then he pulled back and looked at Natasha, all softness gone. You've got some nerve. Femi, sweetheart. She's confused. She's had a head injury. Don't call me sweetheart. I've got the police report from when I filed a welfare check 3 weeks ago and got told a woman named Natasha had guardianship paperwork with a notary stamp from an office that's been flagged for backdating documents. I've got the carrier's fraud department on record saying someone added call screening to Zuri's account using information they shouldn't have had. And I've got our father's actual will, which names me and Zuri as the only executors. No aunt, no cousin, nowhere in it. Natasha's smile dropped completely. You don't know what you're talking about, Desmond said, stepping forward, the easy cousin warmth gone from his voice. I know Hallcourt Realty paid somebody to make sure my sister signed away Dad's property before she remembered she had a brother who'd never let that happen. The monitor kept beeping into the silence, indifferent to the walls coming down around it. Zuri pushed the folder off the tray table onto the floor. Get out, she said. Both of you. Now. Kong Ho stepped between the bed and the door, arms crossed, saying nothing. His presence did the rest. Natasha bent to gather the folder, hands unsteady now, and on her way past Zuri said, low enough only for those closest to hear, You have no idea what you just did. Natasha's words sat in the room heavier than the threat itself. Femi pulled a chair to the other side of the bed. What did she mean? No idea what I did. I don't know, Femi said. But Hallcourt doesn't send people to hospital rooms over a signature lawyers could handle. Something's making them move fast and sloppy. Kong Ho was already texting Taeyong. He looked up. The rezoning announcement. It's not next quarter like public records show. For days. Someone leaked it early so Hallcourt could lock the property down before her claim window becomes public. Taeyong also confirmed Desmond worked 18 months at a medical staffing agency before this. He'd know exactly how temp credentials and badge systems work in a hospital. That's how they got Natasha's paperwork past the front desk. It's not amateur hour. It's someone who knows the systems. For days, Femi said. That's why they were rushing. That's why they blocked me. They needed her isolated and confused long enough to get it done. Zuri looked at the ring like it was the only steady object left in a shifting room. I want to see the will, she said. The real one. Today. Femi had a copy on his phone, forwarded weeks earlier by the family lawyer, the one Natasha made sure never reached Zuri. Dad split it 2 ways, Femi said. You and me, equal shares, both executors. No sale can happen without both our signatures, together, in person. He knew people would come for that block once the neighborhood changed. He built half those storefronts himself. Then Natasha can't do anything without me. Not legally. But that paper you found wasn't a sale form. It was a transfer of executor authority. If she'd gotten you to sign it, she wouldn't have needed your signature again. You'd have signed your rights away permanently while your head was too scrambled to know. Zuri felt something cold move through her, understanding how close it had come. She almost had it. If Kong Ho hadn't stopped her. He did right, Femi said, glancing at him with something between suspicion and respect. Though I've got questions about the husband thing whenever we've got time. It started as a lie, Kong Ho said plainly. I won't pretend otherwise. But I'm not walking away from her now. That part isn't a lie anymore. Femi studied him, then nodded once, filing it away for later. That afternoon, Cho called again. Kong Ho stepped into the hallway. The vote's in 3 days, Cho said. Hall courts asking why our name's attached to a family fraud dispute. This is the kind of headline that kills a deal. Good. Silence. Excuse me. The partnership should die before it starts, Director Cho. Hall court is stealing a dead man's property from his children using forged documents and a hired impersonator with staffing agency access to hospital systems. I have proof. I have a leaked rezoning announcement that reached Hall court 4 days before it should exist publicly. Somewhere in that chain is someone feeding them insider information, and I intend to find out if that person sits on our own board. And if they do, I'm not keeping it quiet. I'll take it to regulators myself if the board won't. Longer silence. Different this time. You're threatening me. I'm telling you what I know, and what happens next if it's you. Kang-ho hung up and stood in the hallway, watching through the glass as Zuri laughed at something Femi said. Real, unguarded. The first laugh he'd heard from her since the plane. It did something to his chest that boardroom winds never had. He went back inside. Everything okay? It's about to be. That night, once Femi went for coffee, Zuri turned to Kang-ho in the low light. 8 months ago, she said. You were too scared to ask my name. I remember. Ask me now. He looked at her, something unguarded moving across his face without effort behind it. Zuri, what's your name? You already know it. I want to hear you say it's mine to know. Not because a nurse assumed it. Because you're choosing to give it to me. Zuri laced her fingers through his. It's yours, she said. It was yours the second I fell asleep on your shoulder, and you didn't move. Outside, in the parking lot below, a black sedan sat with its engine running, headlights off. Desmond in the driver's seat, phone at his ear. She's not signing, he said. Not with the brother here. Not with him digging into everything. We're out of time. If the rezoning goes public before we lock this down, we lose the whole play. And I lose what you promised me for setting this up. A pause. Then we stop waiting for a signature, he said. We take a different approach tonight. Get her out of that hospital to somewhere quiet, somewhere with a notary already waiting. She signs there, or she doesn't come back. If this story's got you hooked already, drop a like, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe to Afro Korean Scope so you don't miss what happens next. Around 11, a man in scrubs that didn't quite fit walked past the nurse's station with a clipboard he wasn't assigned and stopped at Zuri's door instead of any room on his supposed rounds. Kang-ho, still awake in the chair, caught the mismatch fast, the badge clipped upside down, the man's eyes going to the room number twice before touching the handle. Can I help you? Kang-ho said, standing, blocking the frame. Just checking vitals, the man said, already backing up. At 11, on a patient not on your floor's rotation. I've watched every nurse for 2 days. You're not one of them. The man's hand went to his jacket pocket. Not a weapon, a phone, already dialing as he turned and walked fast back down the hall. Kang-ho hit the call button and had security at the station in 2 minutes, describing the man before the door had fully closed. Zuri sat up, awake. What happened? Someone just tried to walk in pretending to be staff. The fear that would have hit her 2 days ago had burned off somewhere in the last day and left something harder underneath. They're not waiting for a signature anymore, she said. No, Kang-ho said. I don't think they are. By morning, security footage showed the man entering through a side stairwell needing a keycard, traced to a temporary badge issued under a staffing agency's credentials, the same agency Taeyong had flagged Desmond once worked for. A call to the agency confirmed the badge had been requested using a former employee's still active login, one nobody had deactivated after he left 18 months earlier. Femi stood in the hallway with a detective, giving a statement, hand gripping the back of a chair hard enough his knuckles had gone pale. They forged guardianship paperwork to get past the front desk, he said. Used a staffing agency badge to try to get someone into her room at night. Blocked my calls using stolen ID information. This isn't a family dispute. This is a criminal operation. The detective, mid-40s, patient, the kind who'd heard 100 versions of family chaos, took it down without interrupting. We'll need everything you have. The will, the transfer documents, the phone records, the notary information. She's ready now, Zuri said from the doorway, for taped at her wrist, standing on her own 2 feet. She told the detective everything. The plane, the ring, waking up to strangers calling themselves family, the paper on the tray table, the call to Femi, the man in scrubs. Hallcourt Realty Group, the detective said, looking up. That name's come up before. Open file in 3 other states on their acquisition practices. Always the same pattern, always a vulnerable air right after a death. This might be the case that finally closes it. If we can tie the notary and the staffing badge back to someone at the company, not just Natasha and Desmond acting alone. They won't be acting alone, Kang Ho said. I have documentation showing the rezoning leak came from inside my own board. I'll give you everything. Kang Ho's phone rang while the detective was still there. The board voted early. Cho said, tighter than Kang Ho had ever heard him. Emergency session. Word got out about the police report naming Hallcourt. Somebody leaked it before I could control it. I didn't leak anything. I know. Doesn't matter now. The partnership's dead. Hallcourt's already distancing themselves, calling it a rogue employee. They'll name someone to take the fall. Good, Kang Ho said again. There's something else. Cho's voice dropped. I had a financial stake in Hallcourt closing that deal. Personally, through a holding account. It's why I pushed so hard. It's why I told you to leave the hospital. A pause, something like relief in it. I've already called our compliance office and the exchange regulator this morning, before the board could bury it quietly. I'm not walking away clean, Kang Ho. There'll be a formal inquiry. I wanted you to hear it from me before you heard it from them. Kang Ho closed his eyes for a second. A puzzle piece sliding into a slot it had always belonged in. Thank you for telling me directly. You handled this better than I expected. Better than I would have at your age. A pause. Your mother would have handled it exactly like this. The line went quiet, then Cho hung up. Kang Ho walked back in as the detective was closing her notebook. Hallcourt's exposed, he said. Partnership's dead. Cho's referred himself for a regulatory inquiry. Zuri exhaled something she'd carried since reading her father's name on that transfer clause. It's not over, the detective said, standing. Natasha and Desmond are still out there. People who forge documents and send fake staff into hospital rooms don't stop because a deal fell apart. They stop when they're caught or when there's nothing left to gain. She looked at Zuri. Right now, they've still got something to gain. You're still the only signature standing between them and a very expensive property. I'd feel better with you somewhere secure and them in custody. Zuri looked at Kang Ho, then Femi, then down at the ring. A stranger's lie that had become the realest thing left standing. 3 floors down, a car pulled into a spot facing the side entrance, the one without cameras. The detective left with copies of everything and a promise of a unit near the hospital by nightfall. It didn't feel like enough. Kang Ho watched the parking lot most of the afternoon. You should sleep, Zuri said. I will. You won't. Femi want to find real food. The hospital settled into its evening rhythm. That was when the fire alarm went off. Not a drill. The hallway lights strobed red. The system called for evacuation on the east wing, Zuri's wing. Nurses moved fast, herding patients toward stairwells. That's not real, Kang Ho said, already pulling her for free. That's the exact stairwell the fake staff badge used last night. They're clearing a hallway on purpose. They're not here to talk her into anything tonight. Desmond said it himself. Get her out to somewhere with a notary waiting. This is a snatch, not a negotiation. A nurse tried to direct them toward the east stairwell. Kang Ho pulled Zuri the other way, toward the elevator bank near the nurse's station, where cameras worked and staff gathered too thick for anyone to pull her out quietly. Through the strobing light, Zuri saw Desmond. No scrubs this time. Just a hood up, moving against the flow, scanning room numbers. Kang Ho. That's him. He pulled her behind the counter, put himself between her and the hallway, and raised his voice over the alarm. Security. East hallway now. 2 guards turned. Desmond caught sight of Kang Ho at the same moment. Their eyes held for half a second, Desmond's face doing the same math it had done in the hospital room. The math finally running out of options. He ran toward the side stairwell without cameras. The guards went after him, boots hitting tile hard. Kang Ho didn't move from in front of Zuri until the alarm cut off, replaced by a hollow all clear. Some idiot pulled it on the east wing. A nurse said, jogging past. No fire. Security's got someone cornered in the stairwell. Zuri's legs gave slightly. Kang Ho caught her before she felt it happen. He was coming for me, she said. While everyone else was pulled toward the exits, he was coming straight for my room. To take me somewhere with a notary waiting. He's caught. It's over. Not until Natasha's caught too. Desmond didn't make it past the second-floor landing. Femi came running back into the building, arriving just in time to see Desmond's hands zip-tied, his hood pulled back. The detective arrived within 20 minutes. Where's Natasha? She asked, No preamble. Desmond looked past her, down the hall, toward the room where Zuri stood with Kang Ho's arm around her. She's already gone. Soon as the board vote leaked, soon as Hall Court started pulling back, she knew this was falling apart. She's not stupid enough to still be in this city. Where? Something in him gave out. Flight out tonight. International. I don't know where. She never told me the whole plan, just my part of it. I needed the money, all right? I'd just lost my job at the staffing agency. She found me through a mutual contact, said it'd be easy, said the girl wouldn't remember enough to fight it even before the accident happened. That part was supposed to be a head start on paperwork, not a hospital bed. Then the plane came down, and it turned into this. He looked at Zuri, something like regret crossing his face, buried fast, but not fast enough. I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm saying it wasn't supposed to go this far. Zuri met his eyes without flinching. It went exactly this far because you let it. The detective radioed something fast about a flight risk and airport alerts. She's still out there, Zuri said once the hallway cleared. She could still get on that plane. Let the detective do her job, Femi said. I want to be there. I need to see her face when this ends. Kang Ho looked at her the way he had that first morning, when Who Are You had told him this wasn't a woman who stayed passive once her feet were back under her. Then we go, he said. If you're feeling the tension right now, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Afro Korean Scope, because this is about to get a lot more real. The detective didn't love it. You're a victim in an active case with a head injury 48 hours old. You don't need to be at an airport tonight. She lied to me while I was unconscious, Zuri said. Tried to steal my father's name off a paper while I couldn't remember my own. I'm not asking permission. Stand me somewhere safe or spend your energy trying to stop me instead of catching her. The detective exhaled through her nose, reaching for the radio. You stay behind the barrier. No approach. No words until we've got her. Clear. Clear. Kang Ho signed her out against medical advice. Femi drove. The city slid past dark and orange under streetlights. The airport moved slower at 11, but it still had a current. Departures called overhead, families saying goodbye near the counters. 2 officers were already stationed near the international terminal, badges tucked, but visible. Zuri saw her first. Natasha stood at a self-check-in kiosk, sunglasses on despite the hour, a single suitcase beside her, tapping the screen, glancing at the departures board. That's her. Stay here, the detective said, already moving. Natasha turned when the detective got close, and for 1 second her face went flat and calculating. No warmth, no rehearsed softness. A woman doing math on exits already closed. Then she ran. She made it 10 feet. 1 officer cut the angle, the other closed from the other side. Wrist bent up behind her, suitcase toppled, clothes spilling onto the tile. Let go of me. This is a mistake. You have the right to remain silent, the detective said, cuffs clicking closed. Natasha's eyes found Zuri across the terminal. You should be thanking me, she said, voice carrying. I would have given you money for that property, more than you'd ever see managing storefronts. I would have made you rich. You would have made me forget who I was, Zuri said. That's not the same thing. The officer walked her out through the sliding doors. The terminal noise swallowed whatever else she might have said. Zuri stood there a long moment after the doors closed. It's done, Femi said. It's done, she repeated, like she needed to hear herself say it. They didn't go back to the hospital. Femi found a hotel near the airport, got 2 rooms. Kang Ho walked Zuri to her door and stopped, hand still loosely in hers. You didn't have to come tonight. I needed to see it finished with my own eyes, not have someone tell me about it later. She looked at the ring. I spent 3 days being the person things happened to. Tonight, I wanted to be the person who ended it. You were. This started as a lie you told a paramedic. I know. Say the true version. Out loud. Not because it's useful anymore. Because it's real. Kang Ho didn't hesitate. I love you. It started as a lie, and somewhere on that plane, before any of this happened, it stopped being one. I think it stopped the second you put your head on my shoulder, and I decided not to move. Zuri closed the distance between them. Nobody in the hallway was calling either of them husband or wife because a paramedic needed it fast. It was just the 2 of them, choosing it, wide awake, remembering everything. Morning after, Kang Ho's phone rang before either of them opened their eyes. Director Yoon, the board's acting chair. Full board met at 7. Cho's referred himself to the regulator, resignations official either way. Clean enough. No fight. No cover-up. A pause. There's talk of moving your confirmation up. Permanent CEO. The way you handled this. Refused to walk away from a stranger who turned out to be the center of a fraud connected to our own partnership. That's the story the board wants attached to this company's name. And the prosecutor's office reached out this morning too. They're building a case against Harcourt itself, not just the two people they hired. Your documentation on the rezoning leak is a big part of that. Kang Ho looked down at Zuri, awake now, listening. I'll be in Seoul by end of week, he said. There's something here I need to finish first. He hung up. Permanent CEO. And prosecutors are going after Harcourt directly, not just Natasha and Desmond. Good, Zuri said. It shouldn't just be the two people who got caught holding it. It means Seoul most of the time for me. A life that doesn't slow down. He took her hand, thumb over the ring that started as a paramedic's convenience. I'm not pretending that's small to ask. You haven't asked yet. Come with me. Not because a lie put a ring on your finger. Because I want you in the real version of my life. I've got a property to save first, she said. A father's legacy that almost got stolen while I couldn't remember my own name. That comes first. It makes room, Kang Ho said. I'm not asking you to choose. I'm asking to be part of both. 3 weeks later, Zuri stood on the sidewalk in front of the block her father built. Storefronts reopened. A plaque near the entrance with his name, something Femi insisted on the day the claim was finalized. Desmond had taken a plea deal in exchange for testimony against Natasha and, through her, against a mid-level Harcourt executive now facing charges of his own. Natasha's trial was still months out. Cho's inquiry was ongoing. His name already gone from every masthead at Kang Ho's company. Dad would have liked this, Femi said. Both of us here. He'd have liked that it almost went the other way, and didn't. Kang Ho arrived straight from the airport, jacket creased. None of the guarded composure from that first seat on the plane was left in him. Board confirmations official. Permanent CEO, effective this morning. Congratulations. I told them I split time between here and Seoul. Non-negotiable. He looked at the plaque. This matters too much to only visit. Zuri touched the ring. You never actually proposed. Just told me to come to Seoul in a hotel room. I'm aware. He pulled a small box from his jacket. Plain. Nothing competing with what was already on her hand. This one's mine to give you. Not my mother's. I wanted you to have something that started as a choice, start to finish. Femi stepped back, a small smile pulling despite himself. Ask me, Zuri said. The real question. He opened the box. Zuri, will you marry me? Not because a paramedic needed a word. Because I choose you, wide awake, with nothing forcing either of us into it. She looked at the ring, at him, at Femi with his arms crossed and his eyes wet in a way he'd deny later, at the whole block of her father's life standing solid behind her. Yes. The street kept moving. Cars, a radio playing from an open storefront, the ordinary noise of a city that had no idea how close this had come to going the other way. Kang Ho's phone lit up in his pocket. A message from Taeyong, closing out a file neither of them needed anymore. Confirmed, Natasha's done this twice before, 2 other cities, 2 other families, always through the same notary and the same Harcourt contact. This time, the contact's name is in the file too. This time, it doesn't end with just her. Zuri never saw the message. She was too busy laughing, ring catching the afternoon light, standing in front of everything her father had built and everything she'd almost lost, whole, awake, and finally certain of exactly who she was. If this story moved you, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me your favorite moment, and subscribe to Afro Korean Scope, because more stories like this one are coming.